Hello everyone, this is Tip Top Gaming here today with another MTG Arena gameplay video. Now today I'm going to be playing Izzet Drakes, with of course important cards being Crackling Drake and Shock, and of course I've built this deck before, but it has new Throne of Eldraine cards like Merchant of the Veil and the Magic Mirror. The Magic Mirror is actually my inspiration for why I rebuilt this deck. Now, the game was kind of bugging out here, so that's why I'm using this opportunity to show you. In the past, I did an infinite combo using these three cards, and this is also built into the deck. Now, normally I wouldn't do this. Normally I have decks that are just meant for infinite combos, but all of the cards separately work really well, so I decided to include them. So for those of you who don't know what Izzet Drake says, it's basically spam a whole bunch of spells, put them in the graveyard, and then get payoffs for having lots of spells in your graveyard. So Crackling Drake, for instance, gets +1 power for each instant or sorcery in your graveyard or exile. And so you'll notice, like, I just opted to do an opt, which is a very good thing, because that's basically 2 spells in the graveyard, and they replace themselves. So it's very interesting, and of course, I did this deck before. I don't like the video on it. The thumbnail's even poor quality, so I think this is a redeeming time for it. You'll actually notice I'm going up against Red Rush, and this deck is a little bit slower. This deck also means a lot more to me. This was the first deck I ever built in paper, like competitively, that I built to be competitive at a local game store. So it means a lot to be able to play this again and play the upgraded version. Now, this deck is, again, not super duper finalized. I'm sure there's a better way to build it, but this is how I built it. And it builds off a couple new cards such as Ironcrag Pyromancer, which you see there, which doesn't exactly care about instants and sorceries, but it cares about drawing your second card each turn, which, if you notice, I do a lot of in this deck. And it basically allows me to turn any draw spell into a removal spell. This game is an interesting one because you get to see the slower deck that I'm playing against a very fast red deck, and I actually make a mistake right here. So you will notice that what I should do is I should play that. Yes, that's the right thing to do, and I should play Radical Idea to blast something. Now, I blast Chandra because she can create 2/1/1s, which would be really bad. Now, I have this Thrill of Possibility and Radical Idea, so I can cast either one of those on their turn to blast something else. Now, what I should do is cast it right there, but it automatically moves to combat, and this ability goes on the trigger, on the stack. Without that, I could have blasted the 2/2, and it would have, I believe, saved me for 1 turn. But because I don't, and they get the Mentor and all that, I lose. So that's my first loss. Then in the second game, I get a little bit, I don't have a payoff in my hand, but I do have lots of draw cards and a little bit of removal. Flame Sweep is new to this deck. I wasn't exactly sure if I liked it, but I do. It works really well, especially against a lot of the mono red decks, and with because this deck revolves around copying spells a little bit more because of the infinite combo, I can take out bigger threats with that. So you'll notice here that Magic Mirror is on top of my library here, and I don't know if that's exactly a good thing that I left it there. I think maybe I should have put it in the graveyard, but I think towards the end, it starts being useful in my hand. So here, I have to decide what I'm going to do, and I believe I decide that I'm going to shock something. And it actually ends up being a good idea because they play Judith, and I was at first going to shock that so they couldn't kill him. But then I realized, oh, Judith has 2 power or toughness, so I can just shoot it with shock. Now, you might say, why didn't you just wait and Flame Sweep? Because if I waited to Flame Sweep, all of those creatures would die, so it would make me take extra damage, and I'm already trying to fill my graveyard, so it makes more sense to kill her, so I only take 1 damage from her. On top of that, you know, this deck is very control-y. It can play very control-y. It can play, you know, very creature-based, depending on what I draw, and that's kind of the nice thing, is that if I don't draw creatures, it's control-y enough, and if I don't draw enough control, it does have a decent, I mean, not too many creatures, but it is kind of nice. Now I play Magic Mirror, which is one of my favorite cards from Throne of Eldraine, and it lets me basically draw a bunch of free cards. So every turn I get to draw 1 more card than I did the previous turn. And so he brings out Angrath, and I decide that I'm going to shock it. Nope, I decide I'm going to shock the Amass token. And I get hit for 3. Then I get to draw an extra turn because of Magic Mirror. I use the Lava Coil to Lava Coil that, and I use the Shock to shock that. So playing the Magic Mirror ended up working out because I drew both of those damage spells. So the Magic Mirror costs a lot, but the more instants and sorceries in your graveyard, the cheaper it is. So that's why it belongs in this deck and isn't just some random card. So then he plays Bantu, which also allows him to fill his hand, but now I'm starting to pull a lot. Now, I do happen to pull an answer, so that's one of the great things about Magic Mirror is that you're drawing answers. Now, I believe I start to worry here after about the next one about my library size because, well, I'm drawing more. So I drew 4 cards per turn 4 cards last turn. So that means next turn I'm going to be drawing 5. And so I have to worry about milling myself out. So a lot of decks that have some feature to draw a lot of cards, I throw in a Jace in there. So it's an alternate win con, especially if games start stalling out. But I end up playing a Crackling Drake here, which is a 10-4, so I basically have lethal in 2 turns. And so what does he decide to do? I figure he's going to try and destroy this. Now, what he decides is the bigger threat is Magic Mirror, and he plays Angrath's Rampage, which he decides to choose Artifact, and there's nothing I can do to stop that, so it gets destroyed. And honestly, at this point, I was kind of thankful for that, because now I don't have to worry about milling myself, although I also don't get to draw answers. However, on the other side, it also did refill my hand, and he is out of cards. Now he's about to pull Bantu, so he can sacrifice more, but yeah. See, what I would have done here is I would have -2'd, I guess he didn't have the mana. If he had the mana open, it would be I would -2 him. And I knew that he could bring back Angrath's Rampage, but I figure instead of killing Chandra and giving him another turn, I decided to play an Arc-like Phoenix, and so that way I have the option to not sack my Crackling Drake. And why this is important is because I can always bring back Arc-like Phoenix. So I knew he was going to play Bantu, so now his options are limited. And at this point, I don't see a way he can win unless he pulls a card from Bantu, which is going to spend a decent amount of his mana. So he tells me to sack a creature. I decide to sack Arc-like Phoenix. And not much else happens. I let this damage through. I could have Flame Sweep, but then he decides he's going to concede because he knows he lost. Alright, on to the next game. Here, I have a little bit more creature heavy of a hand, but then I get into this beautiful card, Discovery Dispersal, which is wonderful because technically I could dump 3 instant sorceries in the graveyard for 2 mana. So that's very powerful. Now, he's playing a very fun deck that's very similar to mine, where drawing extra cards is the main theme, with that card and creating fairies. And this game is interesting. That's the only reason I included it. Recently, I've been more picky about which games I include. I try to show the deck both winning and losing so you can know what to expect, because I know my decks aren't perfect. I am not a great deck builder, but I like to have fun, and I try to only show decks that I have fun with, so I really enjoy this deck. Now, I pull the Royal Scions, which I play. It may not have been the right choice, but I really wanted to play them, because this is, I believe, the first time I actually do get to play them. Now, I know that this is going to create a bunch of 1/1s. So I saved this Flame Sweep for the perfect opportunity, because this is obviously going to try and swarm me. Now, unfortunately, these are flying 1/1, so my 3/4 can't get through, and they can, if he gets too big of an army, he can just, like, devour my creatures, and if he doesn't, he can just swarm past me, but he decides not to attack. I opt into a Lava Coil, which I figure lots of removal is going to be necessary this game, but also I start ditching removal soon because I realize there's no reason to. He's going to just outperform me in removal. So at this point, it looks like I'm going to be doing well because he's putting all this stuff on the board, but you also have to remember he's not actually spending cards to put the fairies out. This is why it's kind of powerful. He is drawing cards, which not only drawing cards, but then he just gets free blockers. And then he plays this card, which is obnoxious, and it creates more tokens for free. So, essentially, he's just creating tons of tokens. He's creating basically 3 tokens per turn, and he does have the ability to create tokens on my turn as an instant speed response. So this deck these cards are being very powerful right now. Now, again, he plays another one. And so now he's creating 4 creatures per turn, and they're different, and now he can exile my Royal Scions, which also isn't very good. So this game is really going downhill for me. But remember, I still have that Flame Sweep in my hand, which can kill everything on the board that isn't mine. So my original goal was to try and get lethal, basically, and my goal is to get lethal so that I can destroy all of his creatures and then just swing for the win, but I realize that he's going to be outpacing me very soon, so I have to do something. So I attack with that, and I destroy that, so he doesn't decide to quadruple block. Of course, what does he do? He just blocks with 2. And why does he block with 2? I'm like, that's kind of stupid. And then I realize he has 1 red mana open, which of course he uses on shock. Now, this is very upsetting to me because, you know, I wanted to not have that happen. But I don't draw a way to save him. I don't even know if there was a way to save him. I was just hoping to be able to do something in a last-ditch effort. Now, I did leave enough mana open for Flame Sweep, so that way he can't just instantly overpower me. So I wait till the very last moment so I can destroy as many creatures as possible, and I Flame Sweep them all. So now his board is reset, but not really because he still has his generators. So you'll notice he'll very quickly get back. And I kind of forget about the fact that he can draw cards on my turn. That was kind of stupid. So yeah. I decide to, for some reason, discard Lava Coil instead of Radical Idea, which I can cast from the graveyard, but that's not that important. I start feeding the graveyard, looking for answers. I get the Arclight Phoenix out, and he, of course, gets to draw cards now, so he gets to create 2 1/1s, which now means that he can kill my 3/2 by double blocking, or just chump block and not take damage. So at this point, I'm feeling very defeated. I'm pretty much giving up because he just gets to create so many cards, and he doesn't run out of cards because all of his cards draw cards. And it's very infuriating, and that means he gets closer to more token generators. And of course, then he Conclave Tribunals my Arclight Phoenix, so I can't get it back. And this is where things really start going downhill. I pull Magic Mirror, but in a thing of greed, I play it. And I don't think this was the right decision. It actually ends up leading to my downfall. I mean, I was hoping to draw some answers like my other Flame Sweep because I do run 2 in the deck because that could actually save me. You know, two great Crackling Drakes, then Flame Sweep the entire board. He's been not super aggressive with his attack, so I was hoping he wouldn't be. But then he bounces his Conclave Tribunal in order to redo it, and I decide to concede because I figure this game is a loss. If you guys want to build this deck or see at least what's in the deck link list will be in the description down below. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know what type of deck you guys like to play in the comments down below. See you guys in the next one. Bye.